Happy New Year and good morning. I'm the Reverend Tony Lorenzen, and along with the Mattituck Unitarian Universalist Society and the Unitarian Universalist Church in Meriden, I want to welcome you to our first Sunday service of 2021. We are very happy you have decided to join us. Our monthly theme for this first month of the new year is imagination. And this morning we have a few ideas for you on how to spark your imagination. Before we get to that, however, we will begin, as we always do as Unitarian Universalists, by lighting the symbol of our faith tradition, the flaming chalice. May this flame light our way into a new year. May its light show us ways of inspiration and imagination. May we enter this journey through a new year with courage and with hope. I know a lot of us are perfectly happy to see go away. Kind of like this. It was a year full of pandemic and sickness and political upheaval and discord, and most of us, if not all of us, are ready for a much better year where things will become healthier and more hopeful. It's a common tradition in Unitarian Universalist congregations to have a burning bowl ceremony to begin the year, where we write on little pieces of paper things about the previous year that we want to leave behind, be they emotions or events or habits, whatever it is for you that you want to leave behind in the previous year. We write it on a small piece of paper and we consign it to the flame of a candle in a bowl or other safe container. I invite you to do this at home. It can be very cathartic to write down the things you want to let go of, consign them to the flames, and say goodbye. Please be safe, and young people should only do this with adult supervision. I invite you to consign what you want to let go of to the flames in your candle, or to rip it up and throw it in your trash, and we are going to symbolically believe that all the things that all of us want to let go of from 2020 are placed in the trash heap for our bulldozer to push over the edge. And as we have consigned the things we want to let go of to the trash heap and to the flames, may what you have released here be forever gone from your spirit and cease to trouble you. May you be relieved and renewed, ever mindful that love is always more powerful than fear, and compassion is the key to freedom from resentment.
For all that is
We don't have a story to tell you this morning. Rather, we have some activities for all ages that will help you spark your own creative seeds of imagination. We're going to talk to you about Zentangles, about improv, and about writing. How to Create a Zentangle by Bethany Thiel, used with her permission. Step 1. Create your frame. It can be any shape. Step 2. Break up the frame using 3 to 4 lines. Step 3. Create a different pattern in each of the sections you created by drawing the 3 or 4 lines. The patterns can be simple or complex. You can add as much detail as you want. If you need help, there are various pattern sheets with Zentangle patterns available on the internet. You can create contrast in your design by using different line widths. Use a variety of different patterns. So to review, to make a Zentangle, create a frame of any shape, then break up the frame using 3 to 4 lines, and then fill in each of the bigger sections you made by drawing the lines by filling them in with a different pattern in each section. And there you go.
One of the most basic rules of improvisation is to say yes and. So what does it mean and why should it make your improv better? First of all, let's look at the yes part. Here's an example. Your scene partner comes onto the stage and says, "George, I see you're a pirate now." You reply, "No, I'm not." Now because you said no, your scene partner has to start all over again and think of something new to say. You're obviously not a pirate, so he can't go on with that. Even worse, he might also say no, in which case our scene proceeds with the thrilling dialogue, "Yes you are, no I'm not," ad infinitum. Let's look at the same scene, but this time you say yes to the suggestion. "George, I see you're a pirate now." "Yes, that's right, I'm a pirate these days." Great. It's already a more interesting scene and also a little funny. So what if you also put in the and part? "George, I see you're a pirate now." "Yes, that's right, I'm a pirate these days and I'm looking for a crew." Fantastic. Now we have a scene with a pirate and the potential of a crewmate. Listening is what improvisation is all about, and that doesn't just mean listening to what people say, it also means seeing what they're doing with their bodies, which words they've chosen, what tone of voice they're using, and all that kind of thing. The first listening you need to do is with your eyes and with your gut. Try and get eye contact and get a sense of what your scene partner's character might be feeling. Man, Colin seems really excited about something. Then take in what they're doing with their body. It looks like Colin's holding something, a scroll. Perhaps he's just got his degree and you're at his university. How about you? What are you doing? How does it fit in with your scene partner? You're nervous. Perhaps you're his parent on graduation day. Then it's time for the words. Colin says, "Louise, I'm going to need you to be calm today." Listening to the words narrows down the possibilities of your scene. You've learned your name is Louise and he knows you. You've felt a family connection, so you must be his sister. If he's asking you to be calm, you must be someone who sometimes isn't calm. And you're definitely not going to be calm if your brother is getting his degree. And that's how to listen in improv. In improvised comedy, we don't usually have props, scenery or costume, so we use who, what, where. Let's start with the who. It's always good to start a scene with two characters that know each other. That way we don't have to spend all our stage time with the dialogue, hello, hello, nice to meet you, and so forth. Calling your scene partner darling, doctor, professor, mum, or giving them a name hands them a who. You can also use a who for yourself, like, well, I'm just the gas man, what would I know? For now, let's go with, Mum, you know I'm your favourite. Calling out where you are gives you mimed props to play with and a lot to talk about. IKEA makes me mad, and so forth. So back in our scene, Mum answers, Susie, sweetie, this is the best dentist in town and you still have to have a checkup, favourite or not. Now for the what. It means what's this thing that's going on right now? Right now, Susie, Mum's favourite, is not happy being at the dentist, but Mum wants her to have a checkup. And that's who, what, where. What is a character in improvisation and how do you create one? A character means that you're being someone other than yourself on stage. Ideally, that character will have a strong point of view and perhaps a different way of talking and physicality than you. Let's try a couple of ways into a scene. Perhaps in real life you look down a lot and keep your hands in your pockets. What if in this scene you put your hands on your hips, stood up straight and spoke with authority? Here we go, Gerald, hold the horses. Or perhaps you want to try out an accent on stage. It doesn't matter if you get it wrong, it's this person's accent. Here we go, Gerald, hold the horses. Or have a go at pulling a silly facial expression and let that influence what you say. Gerald, horses always had a problem with me. The other thing you can do is copy the other character on stage. If your scene partner's playing an over-enthusiastic violinist, you can too. Ooh, I'm playing first violin in the orchestra. Ah, I've made cake to celebrate. I love Puccini. So just for fun, mix and match these ideas to create new characters in your improv.
Try some improv at home with members of your family. Let your imagination loose and have fun. Writing is another way to use your imagination and to get your imagination active. Here are some writing prompts. Get a pencil or a pen and paper or sit at your computer and just write off the top of your head. Here are some suggestions. What is the bravest thing you've ever done in your life? Why did you make the choice you did? How did you feel during and after the situation? What is the funniest thing you've ever seen? Write about a time you did something kind for someone else. What did you do and how did it make you feel and how did it make the person you helped feel? Write about the craziest dream you've ever had. Write about a time you think one or both of your parents made a mistake. What did they do and what do you think they should have done? Did they admit their mistake? Invent a new pet. What would it look like and what would you call it? What would it eat and how do you care for it? Start a story with a lyric or some words from a song. Write a story about a character who gets lost in the woods and discovers a mysterious person there. Imagine your character survives a shipwreck and washes up on a mysterious island. What is on the island? And how does that person get back home? Or do they? Look through photographs, drawings, and paintings. Choose one and write a story about it, imagining where it is and the types of people and things that are there. Perhaps write a little bit about what you think about some issue. such as, does homework actually help students learn? What age should children get their own cell phone? Or should the voting age be lowered to 16 years old? See how your imagination get active by writing. From an essay in Robert Fulghum's All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. What I notice is that every adult or child I give a new set of Crayolas to goes a little funny. The kids smile, get a glazed look on their faces, pour the crayons out, and just look at them for a while. The adults always get the most wonderful kind of sheepish smile on their faces, a mixture of delight and nostalgia and silliness, and they immediately start telling you all about their experiences with Crayolas. We start a month of Sundays on the theme of imagination in the month of January. January is named after the Roman god Janus, often depicted as having two heads, one facing backward and one facing forward. So being as I am on study leave this week for our first Sunday in the new year, I got imaginative and decided to have the me from the past help out with this week's kickoff imagination sermon. Imagine that. I've had an active imagination since my early childhood. I've always liked drawing, making, molding, music, writing, just about anything creative, photography, later in my life theater, and making videos. If you're a creative type, of any type, you know what I mean. And yet, I know a lot of people who don't think they are imaginative or creative. I think too many of us let our imaginations starve and wither as we get older. Something happens somewhere between the ages of 5 and 10 where we stop doing imaginative, creative things if we don't think the results of our imagination are good. We don't sing well or paint well, so the arts as outlet for imagination can get all clogged up for us. And we creep into adolescence, the increasing message from parents, school, and society is stop goofing around, get serious, stop dreaming so much, all that music, art, dance is fine, but it won't pay the bills. And we move into early adulthood and then middle age, and we increasingly see the downside to imagination. It's not dreams, it's nightmares. We start down the anxiety hill about what can go wrong, and all of a sudden it's an anxiety mountain. And no matter how much we go downhill, there's still more. And then we imagine worst case scenarios, and we imagine ourselves getting sick or being embarrassed or failing miserably. We imagine people laughing at us because of what we've dared to imagine. And so our imagination gets really out of shape, which is tragic. Robert Fulghum says, I believe that imagination is stronger than knowledge, that myth is more potent than history, that dreams are more powerful than facts, that hope always triumphs over experience, that laughter is the only cure for grief, and I believe that love is stronger than death. We need to imagine more. Let ourselves create and daydream and make up stories and look for images in the clouds. It doesn't need to be for something. We don't need to make money from anything we imagine. We just need to make, create, take a little risk, imagine something, then do it. Creativity without the need to produce quantity or quality is freeing. It opens up our heart. It doesn't matter how well or how much or how often. Just make things. Just imagine things. I believe ramping up your imagination requires 3 things: faith, courage, and practice. Faith is trust, and we need to trust in the power of imagination, for imagination is a soul thing. It is something like the soul or human spirit that is beyond the intellect and the emotion and the will, deep inside us, at our core, at the very center of our existence, the still small voice. And making, creating, dreaming, imagining is a function of that deepest part of us, the spirit or soul. Right, me from the past? So what's spirit or soul? The educator Parker Palmer suggests that the soul, the human soul, is the essence of us that's left when you strip away the intellect, the will, the ego, the emotions. He says, during my bouts with depression, in that deadly darkness, the faculties I had always depended upon collapsed. My intellect was useless. My emotions were dead. My will was impotent. My ego shattered. But from time to time, deep in the thickets of my own inner wilderness, I could sense the presence of something that knew how to stay alive, even when the rest of me wanted to die. That's something I call my tough and tenacious soul. Imagine that. Thanks, me from the past. Imagination requires courage as well as faith. It requires courage, especially as an adult, when we are aware of not doing things well enough to justify doing them, or singing off key, or being seen as having our head stuck in the clouds. You've got to be brave to imagine. So just what is bravery or courage? What do you think, me from the past? So his drawing for the cover, his task was to help me illustrate courage. It's Captain America. And I came up with this because I, like him, am a big comic book fan from way back. So I was like, great, superheroes. What's braver and more courageous than superheroes? But then it occurred to me, they have superpowers. It's a lot easier to be brave and fearless and bold when you got superpowers. But then I remembered Captain America's story. And the most courageous thing about Captain America is not all the stuff he did as Captain America. The bravest thing Captain America did was to become Captain America. Because if you know Captain America's story, Captain America was a frail, skinny teenager whose mom and dad had both died. And he wanted to join the army in World War II to fight the Nazis. Which, enlisting in the army as a frail, skinny teenager is a pretty brave thing in and of itself. But the army didn't take him, failed his physical. And then they approached him and asked him if he wanted to be part of their experiment taking super soldier serum. And he said yes. And the serum maxed out his physiology to the utmost of human potential, and he became Captain America. So his real courage, the real bravery, was in choosing to try the serum and becoming Captain America in the first place. Not all the deeds and adventures he did once he became that super embodiment of a soldier in the country and all that. Real courage is when you don't have superpowers. This is perhaps the most important thing we can do to consciously practice courage. Be okay with the vulnerability of being our real selves. One of my favorite people, you know her, Brene Brown, says, I always ask very simple questions to people. I say, think of the last time you did something you thought was really brave, or the last time you saw someone do something really brave. And I can tell you as a researcher, 11,000 pieces of data, I cannot find a single example of courage, of moral courage, spiritual courage, leadership courage, relational courage. I cannot find a single example of any type of courage that was not born completely and totally of vulnerability. We buy into some mythology about vulnerability being weakness and gullibility and frailty because it gives us permission to not do it. Giving into fear is natural and easy, but courage is more common than we think. Courage is a practice. It is not a piece of magic. Rita Dove tells us in the reading, courage has nothing to do with our intending to be great or bold. It has to do with what we decide in the moment when we're called upon to be more than we expected, more than we thought we'd have to.
We can't decide to be more in any given moment unless we've been practicing doing that in other moments. Like all virtues, courage is learned by practice. People learn to behave in ways that seem fearless even though they are still scared.
Imagine that. Thanks, me from the past. Imagination, like everything about us, from our biceps to our brains, needs exercise to function at its best. We need to practice using our imagination. Because creativity and imagination are not simple gifts of divine inspiration, it requires taking the spark of inspiration and working at it, and working with it to fashion it into something. And this requires being able to fail and try again and make it better and stay at it. We don't just want to be recreational imaginers. We want to be masters of imagination. Isn't that right, me from the past?
In his book Mastery, The Keys to Success and Long-Term Fulfillment, George Leonard says, quote, "The modern world, in fact, can be viewed as a prodigious conspiracy against mastery," end quote. Leonard tells a lot of stories about our American anti-mastery mentality. I remember the days of being in garage bands, which sum it up for me. In between sets at one of our band's gigs, I was standing around with Dave, the drummer in my band, and this guy comes up to us really excited and says to Dave, "You guys were great. I especially loved your drumming," he says to Dave. "I've always wanted to take up the drums. Watching you play, it was great. I'm going to go get a drum set this week. Watching you play, that was it. I want to rock out like you." This was what he says. "I want to rock out like you. That was kick butt. Do you think I can learn to play like you?" Without missing a beat, my friend Dave, the drummer, says, "Well, you need to be pretty coordinated to play the drums. Can you pat your head and rub your tummy at the same time?" "Sure," the guy says, and he pats his head and he rubs his tummy. "That's great," says Dave. "Can you spin around and whistle?" The guy spins around and whistles. "That's awesome," says Dave. "Can you hop on one leg and keep talking to me?" "You bet I can," the guy says. "Then you're going to be an awesome drummer, my friend," Dave says, "because I can't do any of that stuff, and I can play the drums." And the guy's eyes get real small, like slits, and for a second I thought we were going to be in a fight. But Dave just starts laughing at him, not with him, which is very kind. "Seriously," Dave says, "I've been playing for about 4 years, and I take lessons every week, and I practice a couple hours every day, and our band practices 2-3 times a week. This isn't a trick. You got to really like to play, and you got to really like to practice, and you got to get in a band as soon as you can, because playing in a band makes you much better, much faster." And the guy just slumped away, which was good because I thought he was really angry. We don't like Dave's rock and roll legend advice in our one-hit wonder culture. We'd rather jump up and down and try the new trick and get on with it. And if it doesn't work right away, then, well, we really didn't like it anyway. Or we really didn't want to do it anyway. You know how many hours 10,000 hours is? It's not hours, it's years. And that's if you do it like around the clock, 24 hours a day. George Leonard tells this story in his book of someone trying to become a competitive tennis player. The story really rings true for me because I play tennis and I used to be a high school tennis coach. From his book, "How long?" an adult beginner asks a tennis coach, and the instructor responds, "How long would it take for you to automatically get into position and hit a forehand effectively to a target?" "Yes." "Well, for someone like you who starts tennis as an adult, if you practice an hour 3 times a week, it would take on average about 5 years. And my high school tennis players wondered why I didn't let them use rackets for the first 2 weeks of practice. It was all running drills and service tosses. My first year coaching high school tennis, I had a team made up largely of players who had never picked up a racket before. Just so there was no mass exodus from the team mid-season, I had to tell them in a team meeting they shouldn't expect to win any matches in their first year, and it would be an entire year of just learning the game, and hopefully they'd have fun learning it. It was brand new to them. Thankfully, we had a lot of fun and no one quit. It's a tough road, new skills. Sooner or later, you hit a place where you're not getting any better, and you know it. And George Leonard calls this the plateau. Our goal-oriented society is not comfortable with plateaus. We like instant success and immediate results. George Leonard writes, quote, "Seduced by the siren song of a consumerist quick-fix society, we sometimes choose a course of action that brings only the illusion of accomplishment, the shadow of satisfaction," end quote. He tells us the tennis player who hit a plateau could, quote, "forget about improving your game and just have fun with friends who don't play much better than you, or you could stay on the long road to mastery. What will you choose?" You could blame the coach, but the master in training doesn't do that either.
I invite you this month to daydream, imagine, get creative, make things. 2021 will need us at our very imaginative best. We need to imagine a healthier community that is vaccinated. We need to imagine the future of our congregation. We need to imagine a political landscape that really can improve and improve our lives. Imagine that. Spirit of life, as this new year begins, we turn inward and reflect about the state of our own lives. What lessons have we learned in the past year, in which new ones now call us forward? To whom might we still owe an apology or a word of thanks? And with whom must we draw fresh boundaries? We pause from the regular rhythms of the day-to-day and open ourselves to new perspectives and possibilities during this time each Sunday. We give thanks for these moments, for the wisdom they can afford us. May they help bring us together in the sacred dynamic of life so that we as individuals and members of this community might reach our full potential. As we step across this threshold, looking back and looking forward, may this new year be one of gratitude and awe. May it be one of possibility and hope. May it be one of health and helping. May it be full of imaginative, creative, new ways for us to live into our best selves. For a kinder, more equitable and sustainable world is not only possible, it is on the way. And in the quietness of this sacred moment, we can hear her breathing. Let us bid her welcome. Amen.
My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the reel through far off view that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars, I know the truth it liveth. What though the dark songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vault, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
We've come to the end of our first service of the new year, and we're going to put out our chalice flame. And we remind you to take that flame with you, hold it in your heart, and let it light your way through this new year. Go in peace, holy ones. We'll see you next week.